Okay, so in this example, what we want to do is we want to use the point function once again to draw an X on the screen. So instead of using the line function, I think we did this example before, we're going to use the point function to draw points starting up here at 0, 0, and you have to forgive me, but my hand's not very steady. So this should be a straight line going down to the right-hand lower corner. And we want to draw more points starting down in this corner and going to the upper right corner. Once again, that's supposed to be a straight line. Okay, so how do we want to plan this out? So we want to think about what we need to do in order to draw each line. So this line, let's just think about where we want to draw our points. So we want to have point at 0, 0. Then we want to have point at 1, 1. Then we're going to have point 2, 2, point 3, 3, and so on until we get to point 499, which is the last pixel here on the x-axis and the last pixel on the y-axis. So I'd be assuming that my screen size is 500 by 500. So I'd go to 499, 499. So if I were to write all of these out, I'd have 500 different points to make this line. So this is where I would use a for loop. So I would say for, let's say, position, POS, in range, what? Well, I'm going from 0 to 499 in both of these columns, both the X and the Y. So if I go for I in range 500, or actually to make this more general, I would say width here. So I'm going from 0 to the width, up to and not including the actual value for the width, which is 500. Then I'm going to draw a point at position, position. It doesn't matter what variable name we use here, but we should be using meaningful variable names. So I could use I here, then I'd have point I. That wouldn't be too bad, but if I use X, it may be misleading. So I'm going to use POS for position, or I might have used the word position and then use position in each of these. Okay, so that's going to get me the line going this direction. What about the line going this direction? Well, once again, I'm going to write it out and I'm going to think about it and think about what points would I need in order to make a line that goes from the lower left to the upper right. Well, my positions would be from X is equal to 0, and my first Y value would be equal to 499. So that would get me this position down here. Okay, my second position, X would be moved over by 1, so X would be 1, and Y would be 499 minus 1. Next point would be at 2, so I'm moving this direction with my X, and I'm moving this direction, so taking away from my Y values, so I'd be at 497. Then I'd be at 3, 496. So what's happening in each of these cases? Well, I start with the height of my screen, minus 1. The next Y value is the height minus 1 minus 1. The next one, get down here, sorry, this is getting messy. This would be height minus 1 minus 2. This one would be the height minus 1 minus 3. So in each case, I'm subtracting 1 from height each time, because that gives me my first starting value. Then I'm subtracting 1, then 2, then 3, etc. You notice that these numbers here, 1, 2, and 3, are the same as the X values. That's an interesting observation. So I can do the second line in this same loop by just saying, okay, I'm going to draw these points to make this line go down, but at the same time, while I'm going through all of the values from 0 to the width of my screen, then I'm also going to draw the other lines. I'm going to draw that other line using point. My x is going to be the same as the x values in the first line, so that would be POS. The second value is going to be the height of my window minus 1 minus the x value. Okay, so this first one, for the very first value, position or POS would be 0, so I would have height minus 1 minus 0. The second time position would be 1, so I'd have height minus 1 like I have here. Then I'd have height minus 1 minus 2 like I have down here, and height minus 1 minus 3 for the next one, etc. Until I have the x position, which would be 499, and I would have height, which is 500, minus 1, which is 499, minus 499, which is 0. Okay, so let's try this. So I've already got it started here. I noted before that this has to be a square window, so I'm going to make my size 500 by 500. I've got a function called draw x. I'm going to make the x red, like I did for the line in the last example. And I'll say for x in range width, then I'm going to say draw a point at, oh, sorry, I don't want to use x. I explained to you why I didn't want to use x in this example. So let me just make this more clear. So I'll say for position in range 0 to width, minus 1, I'm going to draw, I'm going to draw my point at position. And let's put a comment in here saying draw line from upper left to lower right. That's what this one does. Then I'm going to draw my line from lower left to upper right with the next line, which was going to be point, position, which is going to be my x value, and then I'm going to have height minus 1 minus position. And let's see what happens when I draw this. So you'll see that it draws the x on the screen.